Come in.
Hello.
Hi.
2020Deegan from
Nice to meet you,
701
Brendan.
Insurance.
Rita,
Good to see you
nice
again.
to see you.
How
Thank
are
you.
you, Rita?
I'm good, thank you.
You mind if I take a seat?
No, please, go ahead.
I know you only said 15 minutes, so I'm just going to keep a timer right here
That's
to be
no problem.
conscious. So last time we were speaking at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, you mentioned that you had a son that goes to FSU.
I do, he's 21.
Wow.
Having way too much fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. I
Yeah.
actually just graduated from FSU a couple
Okay.
years ago, so
Okay.
small world, right?
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, so you've seen the campus, right?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
I know, it's incredible. My
Yeah.
brother's actually trying to apply right now. He keeps telling me how hard it is to get in with
Yeah.
academics and extracurriculars, so
Yep.
you must have a pretty smart son on your hands.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And you said you had two other kids as well?
I do.
What are their names?
Their names are Sally and Paul.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And I didn't catch the FSU sons.
Joe.
Joe.
Mhm.
Perfect. Now the reason I asked is because before we start talking about business, I wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about myself.
Mhm.
And with this job, it has two sides of the business. We have the business, this side right here, where we're sitting down and we're going to learn a little bit more about you and what
Right.
everything that's going on, and make sure that you're protected for, God forbid, anything happens, and that
Right.
you're protected from all angles and covered.
Okay.
Now, the other side of the business is the more important side, in which a lot of insurance agents don't emphasize as much, and that's what happens when something goes wrong and how
Okay.
we're going to resolve it and
Okay.
fix it. And so I assure that my clients are going to be the most protected and covered, but I'm going to be there for them when something does go wrong. So God forbid a worst case scenario does happen, I'm going to be there for you and Mr. Pittsnoggle and Sally and Paul and Joe, and make sure that we can get through this and everything's going to be okay. How does
Okay.
that sound?
Sounds good. It's a great talk.
Yeah.
And you had the opportunity to walk the walk.
I actually have.
Okay.
So you're concerned about my experience?
Yeah, that I am, to be honest, about your experience. And then insurance is one of those things that I think is open to interpretation. You get
Yes.
lawyers involved. I've been burned a couple times with things not being paid that I thought should be, claims that I made.
Absolutely.
And so it just leaves me with a little bit of a bad taste. I'm gonna say I have to buy it, but I don't like it.
No, yeah, I understand it, and a lot of people have mixed feelings about insurance. But just to address your concern about my age or my experience, some may see me as a young individual, but I see the opposite. I see myself as a young person who may not have as many clients as some of the more experienced people in my agency, but that gives me more time to devote towards my clients and make sure that they're getting cared for as possible. And you're with me. I'll leave right here for you.
Okay.
It's about another client that I have right now, and they can attest to my hard work and devotion to my clients.
Anything like me?
Yeah, so this is, I'll actually take a look at it. It's actually a restaurant, similar to another small business. They went through a flood, and I was the first one in there the next morning, helping them shovel water out and making sure that they were getting the coverage that they needed, and they were quickly back on track, and they're doing very well today.
It's a glowing review.
Yeah, and does that kind of alleviate your concerns of?
It does.
Yeah.
It's just, again, I've been burned and it's fear of the unknown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. So just moving forward, just today I wanted to talk about those things we were discussing at the Chamber of Commerce meeting. You were mentioning how you just bought this big, beautiful home, and how you had a growing business that we wanted to discuss and make sure that we're covered on all fronts.
Yes.
Is that still correct?
That's correct.
So today we'll just go over that, and I'd love to see what coverage we properly need, and then maybe if everything goes well, we can set up another meeting where we can go over some type of coverage plan for you. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Great. So just before we get started into the home and the business, what kind of things do you take into effect when taking on a new insurance plan or switching plans?
So, like I just alluded to, I want somebody who's going to walk beside me, who's going to fight our corner. I want transparency. I've had friends that tell me that they got a great deal the first year, rates skyrocketed the second year. I want somebody who's gonna prepare me and I don't want to feel like I'm getting sold that first year to kind of be to be hooked in like that. I want somebody that knows my business, that has expertise, that understands challenges. We're going into this new geographic market. I'm entering a new state. I've never had a business in Florida. I've never done business there.
Yeah.
It's a completely different state, different laws, different regulations, and I want to know that we're doing everything the right way.
Absolutely. No, and I understand that. And it's a huge thing and a huge step for yourself and your business, and we want to make sure that we're with you every step of the way.
Yeah.
Now, is there a timeline for something like this? Are we trying to sooner than later, or?
Well, these insurance carriers dictate my timeline.
Yes,
so I've got 45 days.
45 days.
Yeah, until my coverage expires. So I've got to do something in the next 45 days.
Yeah, so relatively soon.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, should anyone else be involved in this decision? You know, maybe Mr. Pitznagle or anyone else?
Yeah, he would be, you know, he's kind of my saying is he's my partner in life and business. He's stuck with me.
Absolutely.
We'll make the decision together.
Great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So whatever is talked about today, I would love to go over with him as well and make sure that he understands everything as well too.
Okay.
All right. So now let's get into this big home that you were talking about. I heard if you told me correctly, you said 75 acres of wooded area, 10,000 square foot, over a 100-year-old mansion.
That's correct.
Yeah. And how is that place looking?
Phenomenal. Yeah, it's a labor of love. It looks great.
You put a lot of money to it too, as well, as I heard.
We did, and really wanted to keep the historical accuracy of the home, keeping, you know, we didn't. It has to be brought up to 2020.
Yes.
But I wanted to make sure that we maintain that integrity of the home.
Right. That's incredible. Yeah. And then you were also talking about how you brought a couple little cattle and some horses on the barn as well.
Yeah, Fred likes to play with those things.
No, that's actually like. Aside from everything else, that's been one of my dreams, to own a ton of land and a nice big house and just, you know, go away and handle business that way. So that's great for you.
Thank you.
So now, did we have an appraisal on the house at all? Is there an estimate for how much that property is worth?
You know, I think we did one when it got purchased, but we invested just a lot of our cash from our investments into the home. I haven't done one since. I get appraisals are important. To me, that's a number on a piece of paper.
Absolutely.
What I'm more concerned about is we put a lot of historical items in the home, things that we sourced from all over the world to, you know, to make sure we were true to the time period.
Absolutely.
My house is actually being placed in the National Register of Historic Places, which is something I'm super excited about. So I'm more worried about that piece than I am a number on a piece of paper.
That's incredible. And I totally understand that, as I'm sure you've invested so much time and energy into this, as you were saying. So, you know, God forbid, you know, we do live in Georgia, you know, you live in Georgia, we're here in Florida, you know, and hurricane season comes around. What would happen if, you know, a hurricane came through and damaged the property, or, you know, took anything out as a whole for that such large and old house?
I hope I never have to see it, but that's something I'm greatly concerned about, because I want to know that I could put it back the way I want it, you know.
So making sure we're properly covered on this house is extremely important to you.
Yeah.
Great. And so we want to also make sure that we are covered for the horses and the barn as well, the entire property.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Now, is there anything else in regards to the home that you were directly concerned with, aside from the you know, historical treasures that you're putting into the house?
I mean, you know, it's like a lot of big houses, we have other people to help us keep it up. You know, if my gardener decides to cut his finger off, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
that's horrible.
So
we want to make sure they're properly.
Yeah.
Great. Sure thing. I'll just make a note of that as well. And you said you had 2 staff on duty, is that right?
I do.
With the housekeeper and the hand.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, great. So is that all for the home for right now?
Those are my biggest things.
Great. So let's just transition into the business side, because, you know, it seems like you know, Fred has done a great number for himself since he's taken over this business.
Yeah.
Now, could you tell me a little bit more about him and the business itself?
Yeah. So he you know, grew up and had this great opportunity. He'll tell you that I'm the brains behind the operation, so don't give him too much credit.
Exactly.
But you know, we have a huge opportunity to grow. We see a need for our type of shops in other markets where there's not competition. It's a huge step for us.
Yeah.
You know, we're adding drastically to our number of locations, a number of stores, and just we're partnering with people that are going to own part of this business in these locations. That's new to us. I'm worried about a lot of stuff there. So it's a big venture.
Yeah, so what Fred was telling me is that he's kind of taking more of a backseat on this, starting now, being a more administrative, which is great because he's trying to expand.
Right, he's got to lead the organization.
Exactly. Yeah. So just to kind of go over some things, we have that diesel shop in Noonan, correct? And so how many employees do we have there?
We usually have around 10.
10?
Yeah.
And then it says you own 4 lube shops right now, so with 10 employers each as well.
Yeah.
So we have almost 50 employers just with those 2 establishments, along with the car washes I heard we're trying to expand to.
Yes.
Great. So making sure, you would say that making sure we're properly covered for these expansions and things like that are extremely important, correct?
Yeah, they're hugely important, and these employees and their family to us. We want to make sure they're safe. We want to make sure if something happened to the business, that they can still provide for their families. We're a family business, and we operate on those values.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you are well educated of the fact that, businesses every day can just be taken like that for one mistake. And what would that do to, Fred and your family if something like that were to happen or this business was taken?
Well, I hope there's insurance for that,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's a big concern. I mean,
No.
if we lost that income and our employees lost that income, that's substantial.
Yes.
That's something I want to know. Can we protect against that? Are we adequately protected against that?
Absolutely.
I need help with that.
Absolutely, sure thing. And then making sure that we have it properly covered on all fronts is extremely important as well. Now, talk to me about that you're currently covered, and now you were covered. Your insurance agent is located in Durham, right? I actually did some research, and Durham is over 200 miles away from your house. That's almost like a 4-hour drive, right?
It is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So how, who is going to be there for you if something does happen at the house, or when you're at the house, or maybe he's at the house, and what's going to happen when he's that far away?
I'd love to know.
Yeah, exactly. So making sure that you have an agent that's going to be with you and close and there at beck and call is important as well, right?
I want somebody who's there, and I don't necessarily care where they're coming from, but I want them there when I need them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Now, is there anything else that you'd like to bring to my attention before moving forward?
As we've expanded in these shops that we're opening, I mentioned our employees, and we're trying to figure out, we can do training, we can maybe even do some certifications for them. Is that going to impact our insurance costs? The other thing I mentioned was that we're going to give people ownership in these shops. So we'll have whoever's running that shop will be a minority owner.
Yes.
Some of these people we know, some of these people I don't know. And I'm trusting my business to them.
Absolutely.
So what if they stole from us? What if they behaved, improperly in the workplace? Like, what happens to us in our business?
No, I understand that, and taking something from so small from what Fred had and growing like that, it's very difficult, and it's hard to see these things from the perspective that you are, but it's very great that you can understand that as well. But making sure that we're covered and on the ownership aspect and for the growth is something that would need to be addressed as well.
Yeah, and just how that impacts our costs.
Perfect, awesome. So I'm just gonna go, I've been writing down notes right here, but I'd like to kind of just visually show you what I've been seeing, and I'm just gonna highlight the things that I believe would need to be extremely covered for the plan that we would potentially build. So what I'm seeing here is obviously the home needs to be covered. We're worried about that wooded area. And for that, for such an old house like that, we'd recommend, just off the top of my head, what I'm thinking is an HOA policy, which is for older homes, and it helps you make sure that you can retain the value of those houses. At the same time, while looking at the business and the growth and things like that, we want to address a pretty large business owner policy that would cover general and employer liability, as long as those assets and the revenues with that. And that would also protect you. We can also look into protection on the back end from the ownership standpoint, meaning that, God forbid, one of the owners passed away, that you would then receive that ownership back, and that you wouldn't, somehow be confused with another in that situation. Now, how does that sound to you?
It's a lot, but I think it sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely. So just going over everything we talked about today, like I said, I'm going to be here for you. I know you want someone that is going to be there for you, and I believe in what you guys have been doing. I love the fact the home. I'd love to go out there and take a look at it if I get the chance.
Yeah, you're welcome to.
And I don't know much about the mechanics business right now, but I'd love to get in the shop with Fred, maybe like take a look at some things that are going on there, and just more or less build a relationship between the two of us, because if we do move forward with this, I'm going to be there every step of the way.
You willing to get a little grease in your hands?
Yeah, I'd love to, and if the truck ever breaks down, I know where to take it. Exactly. So moving forward, I'd just love to take all this information back to my office, kind of build a plan for you guys, and set up another meeting. How about Thursday at 5 or 8?
Let's do 8.
8? Perfect. Sounds good. I'll see you Friday.
Thank you so much.